Hello friends. So in the previous slide I have explained about the Equisetum morphology. That's the Equisetum where actually it grows habitat and their classification that continue with their sporophyte and the gametophytic structure. So usually the plant body in the picture what you are looking, that's a complete plant body consists of the branches, that is usually nodes and the internodal region will be there. The complete whole body is divided into a root, stem and the leaves. So usually it grow up to 10 to 16 centimeter height, or sometime it may be up to 2 to 3 meter height also. So and usually stems is varies with the sizes. And coming to the morphology, so Equisetum plant body is called as sporophyte. The sporophyte consists of the root, stem and the leaves. Okay, leaves are not just like a angiosperm leaf, these are just like a needle like leaves will be present. So the first part is the root. Roots are generally born on the rhizome except the first root of the embryo. Rest all are adventitious and they arise endogenously. Actually sometime you will have a question. So in case of Equisetum, where actually root will be rises, that means the roots are rises from the endogenous branches. And uh, they are in the each oral of these rhizomes you will have the root will be present, and they are highly extensively branching, and they have the root scapes will be present. The stem, the main stem is underground and creeping in nature, because it usually commonly grow in a shady and muddy areas or in the silica beds, river basins. So that's why the base portion of the stem is creeping, and that will be present inside the soil or the sand. So that's a creeping and perennial in nature, and sometime it may be more than 1 meter in length in below the soil, and it consists of mainly the upper shoot that consists of the nodes and the internodal regions. The gap between the two nodal regions is called as a internodal regions. The orals of the nodal region consist of the scaly leaves. They are jointly attached to the base of this nodal region, and they form a sheath like structure. And usually the buds develop into the erect aerial branches. The sometime they may be have the different aerial branches, small and sub branches, or sometime they are lead to the formation of tubers. They help for the vegetative reproduction. The rhizome bears, there are two types of shoot. One is a aerial shoot, and the that is a vegetative shoot, and the fertile shoot. So usually aerial shoot and also the fertile shoot, they will have the nodes and the internodal regions. So usually vegetative roots have the shoots have the highly branched green and photosynthetic nature, but the fertile shoot bears the strobilus or the cone like structures at the tip. They help for the reproduction. So this is how the actually the structure of the Equisetum. This is the first one is a natural vegetative branching. The second one is the shoot having the cones. So the tip is called as a strobilus or the cone region. The complete green color photosynthetic, that is the vegetative structure. And usually in some species of the Equisetum, that's Equisetum debile and Equisetum have, there is no distinguish between the sterile and the fertile shoots. They are all are look like a similar. This is the structure. And branches are of two types, that's the branches of unlimited growth and branches of the limited growth. They are further branches of the unlimited growth. They are further branch like the main vegetative shoot, and they differentiate into node and internodal regions. But the branch of limited growth, they cannot differentiate. They will have a nodal and internodal like vegetative shoot, but remain unbranched regions. That's why they are called as limited branches of limited growth. So this is the complete structure of the nodal and the internodal region. So just you will find the ridges and the furrows in the stem region, and the nodal region consists of the sheathing leaf bases. The internodals are the hollow and have the longitudinal ridges and the grooves. The ridges of the successive internodes alternate with each other, and the number of ridges and grooves are equal to the number of leaves and the nodes. So this is how the particular nodal region and the internodal. So this is the internodal region, and this is the nodal region have the leaves. Scaly leaves will be present. So coming to the leaves, leaves are minute, scaly and isophilous in nature. And usually the scales are the whorled at the node of the both underground rhizomes and the aerial branches. They are fused their bases to form a distinct sheet, and their distal free ends gives a frill-like appearance. They are look like a frill-like appearance. The species with narrow stem usually have the few leaves, that's a 2 to 3 leaves, and those with a thick stem have the many leaves. So that may be varies. The leaves are successive nodes alternate with each other, and they are photosynthetic in nature. Coming to the anatomy of the Equisetum, the aerial shoot that consists of the that's the internode and the nodal region. The coming to the structure of the aerial shoot, usually interesting, and they combines of the hydrophytic and the xerophytic characteristic. And usually the internodal region, so this is the structure of the cross section of the internodal region. They have the distinct epidermis as well as the develop the cortex and steely with the ring vascular, but in the center region you will find the halo region. And you will find the very interesting two structures, that is the vesicular canal and the cranial canal will be present. So in examination generally 2 marks question, where do you find vesicular canals or where do you find cranial canals? That is in Equisetum stem. So next, below the outer region, that's the epidermis region will be present. It composed of a single layer cells with the heavy in creation of the silica. Already I told, usually these are grow in the river basins. That's why commonly the silica will be, that's the sand will be there. From that usually these shoot or the stem of the Equisetum absorb the silica, and they will accumulate in the stem of the Equisetum. They provide the mechanical strength to the shoot, and epidermis is interrupted by the stomata, and usually they are confined to the groove region. Stomata are usually sunken in nature. This is the xerophytic characters. Generally, we will ask write the hydrophytic characteristic of Equisetum stem, or write the xerophytic characteristic of the Equisetum stem. That time you have to be differentiate. That's the one important character. Stomata will be sunken. Stomata, ridges and grooves will be there. These are the xerophytic characteristic. Cortex region, next one region is a cortex, that is differentiated into outer and the inner cortex region. The outer cortex region consists of the sclerenchymatous layer and also the chlorenchymatous cells. And but there is no sclerenchyma below the stomata will be there. So this is the complete epidermis region, that's they consist of the vesicular canal and cranial canals in the outer region, and usually sclerenchyma followed by the collenchyma. This is the structure of the Equisetum stem. That's a graphical representation of the Equisetum stem. Cortex is thicker below the ridges, conspicuous intercellular spaces present in the chlorenchyma, and usually inner cortex composed of thin-walled parenchymatous cells, and larger Schleier's canals will be there. They are called as vesicular canals. And also stellar region, the distinct endodermis is covered with the stele, which is various with the position in different species. For example, in case of Equisetum arvinae and Equisetum apellistrae, there is a single layer of endodermis will be present outside the stele, but in case of Equisetum debilae, there are two endodermal layers will be present. So like that, these regions will be varies. And in sometime Equisetum giganteum, there is a separate endodermal layer around the vascular will be there. There are 3-4 different types of endodermis will be there in the stellar region, that's a vascular bundle region. That's a sometime primitive one, sometimes they are the adventitious one. And usually vascular is a siphonostele will be present. Usually all pteridophytes have the stellar region, that's a siphonostele will be present in the equisetum stem. So this is the cross section of the equisetum shows with the different vascular bundle region, outer velicular canals and the epidermal region, and usually very easily so you can find the ridges and the furrow region. The xylem in the vascular bundles, xylem is a bundles in the form of two lateral and median group of trichids will be there. And usually in case of the young vascular bundles, they consist of the protoxylem represented by the trichids with the annular and the spiral thickenings. But when they matures, they consist of the protoxylem element disintegrated to form a leukina will be present, and they are look like a halo region. Those are called as a cranial canals. These that's why in the ecosystem stem you will find the cranial canals and the velicular canal region. However, they can be along the periphery region of the region, and cranial canals are filled with the water. They helps in the conduction of water. Thus, they have the hydrophytic characteristic. And this is a complete diagrammatic representation. So completely you can find the epidermal region, ridges and the furrows, and stomata region small interrupted with the outer epidermal region, and velicular canals will be there, and the cortex region consists of the velicular canal and the center endodermis, and the pith is a cavity region, and in between the fragmented that's a protoxylem will be there. This is the structure of the young equisetum stem. And what are the xerophytic characteristics of Equisetum stem? One is the presence of ridges and grooves, the outer radial walls, epidermal cells with the silica gel, presence of sunken stomata, presence of the developed sclerenchymatous hypodermis, presence of the reduced scales and leaves, presence of photosynthetic tissues just like parenchyma in the stem region, and well developed vascular cylinder. So these are the some xerophytic character, mainly ridges and grooves, and sunken stomata and reduced scaly leaves. Okay, so that you have to be remember. And what are the hydrophytic characteristic of the equisetum stem? That's the presence of well developed aerating system, that's a velicular canal central pathway, and presence of the reduced xylem that represented by the few protoxylem and the metaxylem tracheates. Coming to the nodal region, so what we studied, that's the internodal region, and the nodal region, that's the pith is not hollow, and usually instead of that there will be a nodal diaphragm will be there, and velicular canals are usually not present in the nodal region, and bundles to fuse the velicular cylinder, and cranial canals are also absent in the nodal region. And the rhizome, so usually if you take the rhizome, that's the TS of the rhizome, there will be a epidermal region and outer cortex, that's the rhizome is a less sclerenchymatous cortex will be there, and chlorenchymatous cells are not found in the cortex region. Velicular and cranial canals are narrow and comprises with the Schamstut. The coming to the root, so the root have the three regions, that is epiblema, cortex and the stellar region. So this is the structure complete, that's outer complete epidermal region, epiblema will be present. So and usually the cortex region and the center stellar region will be present. First, that's outermost, that's epiderma or the epiblema region, they consist of single layer, they help in the protective nature covering of the root, and some of the cells of epiblema along to form the root hairs also. Cortex region consists of the outer sclerenchymatous and inner parenchymatous layer will be present, and the stellar region, they consist of the two layered endodermis. The cells of the outer endodermal layers are larger, having the Casparian bands, and the pericycle is present and lateral roots are arising from the endodermis. So usually the protoxylem or the protostele will be present in case of the Equisetum root, and usually larger metaxylem will be present at the center, and usually phloem is present in between the protoxylem and stand. This is the how the structure or the diagrammatic cross section of the Equisetum root section. The completely you can find the central vascular bundles and outer region and the greenish color cortex region. So based on the color only, so you can distinguish the outer region, inner cortex, and also the vascular bundle region. So this is how the general account of the morphology and the anatomy of the Equisetum. So I hope you will get the concept. In the concept, you have studied the outer morphology, sporophyte structure, the morphology of root, stem, and the leaves, and the anatomy of the root, stem, and the leaves. So this chapter usually the first half. In the second half, you will study the reproduction of the Equisetum.